Joining us live, Fox Nation host Tomi Lahren. Tomi, I think that one of the reasons this statement from Justice Sotomayor is getting so much attention is because most people didn't realize that Supreme Court justices made mistakes of this size. So what do you make of this false statement from her, and how do you think the Supreme Court is going to rule when it comes to the president's vaccine mandate?
Well, listen, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets their statistics wrong sometimes, but this is a pretty big mistake. I mean, this is a seismic mistake, especially for someone in her position. But can we imagine for a moment if there was a conservative who spread this kind of misinformation, especially a conservative who sits on the high court? The liberals would have a field day with it. And let's also imagine if we held liberals in the Supreme Court, in media, on Twitter to the same standard that we hold conservatives on the same platforms. They wouldn't have platforms anymore because they would be actually spreading COVID misinformation. That's a standard that all of us conservatives are held to. We have stickers on absolutely everything that we post. Even if we so much as question the flip-flopping science of folks like Fauci, we are labeled as misinformation. Yet there are people that can sit on a high court and spread blatantly false information and get away with it. And the answer from Jen Psaki on this, her avoidance to speak on this, just goes to show you that the liberals are all in cahoots. They quite frankly don't care. They are not held to the same standard as conservatives, and I don't think they ever will be.
You mentioned Jen Psaki trying to avoid it. Let's take a listen.
What do you guys think about COVID misinformation coming from the Supreme Court?
I'm not going to speak to Supreme Court arguments or statements made in those arguments.
I thought the White House, their number one goal was to root out COVID disinformation. I thought that was their stated goal. Does that not apply to a Democratic justice who, I don't know, has some of the most highly trained law clerks at her disposal?
Oh, it doesn't apply to law clerks or the justice. It doesn't apply to Rachel Maddow. It doesn't apply to Lord COVID whisperer Dr. Anthony Fauci. It doesn't apply to any of them because they can simply say that the science has evolved, or they can just simply not answer when asked why they are actually spreading misinformation. But this goes far deeper than this and someone just making a mistake. We need to ask this justice why she would spread that misinformation, why she wouldn't apologize for that misinformation. And it also goes to the core of the public and why they don't trust government. Why should we trust government? They have flip-flopped numerous times. They spread misinformation. They seem to want to stoke the COVID hysteria flames. And to what end? What is the goal here? To keep Americans perpetually in fear of COVID, which is now essentially a glorified cold? We have to ask, what's the motivation behind this? Because it doesn't seem like the American people are benefiting from it whatsoever.
Yeah, and Tomi, you touched on this briefly, but one of the questions really is, where is the outrage from Democrats and some in the media who were so opinionated when it came to some of President Trump's Supreme Court nominees? You may remember this.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price.
But apparently the pick is going to be this Amy Comey. We'll all be saying this name a lot, I'm sure, because she's a nut.
Yeah, so none of that directed at Sotomayor. I'm glad for that because I don't think that any Supreme Court justice deserves that treatment, but there is clearly a political distinction there when it comes to the media as well.
Well, the double standard is the only standard of the left, and especially the leftist media. But I want to hear this justice come out and apologize for her comments, say that it was misinformation, say that she made a mistake. We need to have some accountability because the American people are listening and watching the Supreme Court right now. People's jobs are depending on their decisions. So when they're blatantly spreading misinformation they're not held accountable for, that affects everyday Americans who should be outraged. They have a right to be outraged. We need answers. And it's not just from the Supreme Court. It's from all of our government officials. They have been caught time and time again evolving on their science, but Americans' jobs and their lives are hanging in the balance. Someone needs to be held accountable, and it looks to me that no liberal and certainly nobody within that Biden administration will be.
That's right. And the Supreme Court's decision on the president's vaccine mandate, of course, could come down any day now. It is in place right now, but that could change depending on how the Supreme Court rules. Tomi, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.